Hello, welcome to SquishiVision, where I've just finished watching Andor, Daughter of Ferrix. Well, to be honest, I haven't just finished watching it. I finished watching it an hour ago, and then I did a stream, and then half my stream, I suddenly needed to go to the loo, because that's the way my disabled body works. It reminded me, be like, hey, you need to go to the loo now. No, I won't have given you an advance warning. You're gonna do it. You need to go right in the middle of the stream. And I kind of rushed my analysis, which I didn't think was fair because I really liked parts of this episode that I did think deserved a bit more talking about when I did. So I've retconned my own stream and I've made that other one unlisted, and I'm going to basically start from scratch here. So this was Daughter of Ferrix, penultimate episode, which is always an interesting turning point, and between the Marvel and Disney shows has been a actually, to be fair, the MCU Disney Plus episodes have always given me a sour taste and a lot of apprehension because they don't always deliver. They don't always set up the finale. They always undo basically the plot up to this point and set up a new plot, which I never really liked. But Star Wars ones haven't actually been that bad with their finales, the penultimates. So whatever. This episode basically did the same job that the episode after the Aldani trilogy had to do, which is basically dealing with the fallout of what was a cinematic level of dramatical climax. And the last episode was extraordinarily good piece of television, never mind extraordinarily good piece of televised Star Wars. So following on from that was always going to be interesting. I was interested for the entire week where we were going to go next. And continuing the kind of ensemble the show is taking, we're basically following 4 different plot lines, of which Andor's story is actually relatively minimal. But that's what I actually kind of like. I like how he's his central figure of the show, but he doesn't actually have that much to. I'm kind of on 2 ends of it. I don't think he's had much of character development, but maybe that's not the point. And I guess it's kind of the whole thing about rebellions is it's not really about one person, but sometimes we make it about one person. But he's definitely a driving force that I guess it deserves to be called Andor. But at the moment, he's not really the focus of the show. But I kind of actually like that. I kind of like we're seeing all these different kind of strands interweaving and connected, but they're not all. Mon Mothma has literally no idea who Andor is, but she's got these degrees of separation to Andor, which I think is very interesting. And obviously, she's going to meet him at some point because they know each other come Rogue One. So, yeah, Andor's story is pretty minimal, but also actually kind of interesting. So, they're trying to escape the planet they're on. They come across 2 fishermen who have a ship. Melshi is quite desperate and wants to steal the ship. Andor's a bit more cautious. Hi River. Thanks for ruining the illusion of my green screen. Andor's a bit more cautious, but it doesn't matter because Melshi kind of runs the ship, and Andor's caution is valid because they immediately spring a trap, which was set for this very purpose. But then what happens next is interesting. So we're basically after all that. After they escaped that prison and did that prison break, they're now at the mercy of these 2 fishermen who initially, and considering they're about to steal a ship, seem very much like they're about to hand them in. And then they seem like they're going to hand them in, but dead, because apparently the prize is saying whether the escaped prisoners are dead or alive, which seems a bit bizarre because the prisoners are being used as a workforce, so surely they're more valuable alive. I mean, them escaping doesn't make them any less good workers unless you just assume that you want to, presumably you want back alive even if you're going to kill them later on, because that's going to kind of be a good mission. I'm not trying to advocate for this, obviously, but I'm just not. I'm very confused in the logic there. However, whatever. It looks like they're going to kill them and hand their bodies back in for a prize. But then then it's clear. Then it kind of transpires that really they were just kind of messing with them, and they aren't any fans of the Empire, so they were never going to sell them out to the Empire, and they basically just let them go. And not even let them go and give them a ride off the planet as well, which is a nice and also kind of underplayed bit of world building, because it's canonical that the Empire is human supremacist and xenophobic in that sense. In a kind of direct analogy to white supremacy, the Empire is human supremacist, and it's very hard for an alien to kind of get anywhere in the Empire. And the aliens make the point about, they're like the Empire has like ruined their fishing business, and eventually they're gonna end up ruining more aspects of their way of life, and possibly even that jeopardize their actual lives. So they're not going to help the Empire anyway. And they recognize the Empire as massive fascist killing machine. So and they basically be like, we'll help you escape. And that's a nice bit of like, it's not explicit, but if you understand the wider Star Wars universe, you make these kind of connections. And it's like, well, that's of course the only other way that was going to go. So that was very nice. And then we don't see Andor to the end of the episode. In the meantime, several other things happen. The other kind of major plot point is Marva dies. She dies off screen. So she allegedly dies. People are theorizing she's still alive, but she appears to have died. And there's like a nice kind of community moment on the planet. A lot of people are developing fields for B, who's a droid over there, who is basically acting like a traumatized, confused puppy who doesn't understand really the magnitude of their master dying, and is kind of having to come to grips with that. And I think a lot of people, it's tugging on the heartstrings. A lot of people, especially those who own pets. It's interesting because like Star Wars has been inconsistent, and maybe it's an in-universe inconsistency with how we're meant to regard droids. A lot of people, even like heroes, even people who act who act differently to other droids. A lot of people act like droids are just tools. They're just machines built as programmed, like computers. You wouldn't think much of a computer. Whereas you have other people on the spectrum who basically treat them as living creatures. But then you have people who like do both. Like a lot of like Anakin and Luke, they will treat people like R2 and C-3PO as people, but then they'll treat other droids who aren't named characters or main characters as just disposable. There's always like one droid who's like family, and then there's like other droids who they don't care about, and it's completely. I guess it's kind of how we treat animals. If you use animal, who's your pet. People have pet chickens, and they will eat other chickens. So I guess they're more like animals, but like animals that can talk to you and express feelings, which I guess kind of is a rabbit hole we won't go quite down right now. Or indeed, I think ever. But yeah, that was definitely a moment. And then other people are kind of taking interest in Marva's death. Cinta is taking interest in Marva's death, presumably because she thinks it'll draw Andor back into her scopes, and the Empire, for the exact same reason, think that the same will happen as well, and they want to kind of use that to draw Andor into a trap. Cyril gets word that Marva's dead and nicks a bunch of money from his mum, and I presume he's going to go and do his own thing. And I really want it to be like an anticlimactic thing where he turns up acting as if he's Andor's arch nemesis, and Andor's like just shoots him like he doesn't know who he is. I think similar things happen in like Rogue, Agents of Shield and like Buffy. But like, Cyril is clearly a person who thinks he's more important in the grand scheme of things than he is, and I want that kind of reflects on how he ends, because I think that's gonna be really funny. I don't know if that's what they're gonna do or not, but it'd be really funny. Probably my favorite part of this episode, and it's no surprise, is the bit with Luthen and Saw. And Luthen basically, turns up to go see Saw, who initially rejected working with Krieger because he didn't believe in his politics. It was like, actually, no, I will work with him for like pragmatic reasons, and I get to use it as an opportunity to do my own attack, and I get all the kind of things he promised me, and like I'm not going to work with him. He just lets me know kind of vaguely what his plan is, and I will like participate in like a simultaneous thing, but I'm not going to like take orders from him. And like he's getting so worked up to get involved in this. And, in any other kind of context, it would have been great because that's like what Luthen wanted, but in a kind of a tragic twist of fate, obviously Luthen now knows that Krieger's attack is going to result in his and all of his men's death, and he's already done the maths and decided that he's going to have to like take that loss. But now he has to, he doesn't want to lose Saw. He doesn't feel like he needs to lose Saw. But he's the one who obviously put Saw into connection, so he can't back out of this without revealing his position. And so he's basically like, if I, Krieger's gonna die, and I can't want Krieger because then I'll lose my contact. And Saw kind of has to like work out how to respond to that. And you get this moment where he's completely paranoid about people's intentions. Like he doesn't know what Luthen's like game is. He's like, Luthen, he tells Luthen that Luthen clearly has people, like spies everywhere. And he's like, do you have a spy here? You probably do. Like, why wouldn't you have a spy here? Like, you spy on everyone you know. And I had a lot of problems with the way that they could have underused Saw in Rogue One, like where he was characterized and then he was like immediately, like almost very quickly killed off. I wasn't a massive fan of, but this kind of helps ground his paranoia, because you can see like the smaller elements here in a way which I mean I've seen all sorts of appearances in animated episodes as well. This I only created a bigger disconnect, but this kind of helps meld those together. So I enjoyed that, and like Forrest Whitaker was doing a great job in kind of just like expressing, like kind of just portraying the whole chaos that Saw like resembles in the whole rebellion, like the whole just kind of like guerrilla warfare kind of attitude. But it's also great because like he doesn't care about the politics, or at least I don't get the feeling he cared about the politics of the rebellion, but he's not like below it. He understands it, and so when like Luthen's like, okay, well, I know what I'm gonna do, I don't know what you're gonna do, so you've got to make the decision here about what you want to do. And he explains the consequences of the actions. He like forces Saw to kind of like ground himself and like just understand the situation, and Saw evaluates it and has to like make a political decision of, yes, probably gonna have to like sacrifice Krieger. But it's great to see Saw come to that. It was way Forrest Whitaker acts it. It's fantastic. There's a moment between Vel and I can't remember her name, but Luthen's kind of aide, where Vel basically comes in, and Vel's like not a spy, so she's not like doing all the kind of political innuendo about being there to buy an artifact in a way to kind of talk about stuff in like a coded language. She's just trying to be like clear and open and out about it, and like you can clearly see that's as exasperating the aide who's like trying to be careful, and like she's like jeopardizing everything. But that was a nice kind of like subversion of the whole spy talk thing. But yeah, she basically wanted to like tell Luthen about Marva's death. So that happened, and then Luthen is leaving the partisan planet. He is talking on the radio to his aide, and they're now using all the spy talk, but pretending talking about kind of antiquity sales, but really we're talking about something else. It was well written. I didn't quite understand what they were talking about. I think they were talking about something Andor, I guess, but it wasn't clear to me. Maybe it'll come. Maybe I'm just being dumb, or maybe it'll be revealed later on. And then a ship comes and like tries to like do a search of Luthen's ship just because he's in the wrong place at the wrong time. Luthen basically shows his resourcefulness, and it's like quite a nice. It's a neat. It's not really a battle, but it's a neat kind of like escape artist trick where he basically shreds their tractor beam dish with like bunches of like metal or whatever. They get launched out of his ship, and then he has these cool laser beams which come out of his ship and like giant lightsabers, often like a Death Star beam actually, but red. And yeah, it's a cool action piece. It looks pretty good CGI wise, and it shows kind of these kind of overpreparedness of Luthen. And then my second favorite bit of the episode is, of course, a bit with Mon Mothma. So when the last episode, Mon Mothma was given the kind of position of, oh, this criminal will give you a bunch of money. You just have to introduce their two children, and obviously the criminal's kind of hoping that they will propose to each other and create this kind of connection, which is like a bit much more worth to him. I was like, well, it's very unlikely that two random teenagers who just meet each other, especially in a stiffy formal arranged meeting, are gonna like fall in love. So it's like it's a very low. I mean, there's risk that it happen. It's low risk, and I just thought Mon Mothma was just being very, very careful about that risk not ever coming to fruition. But it's established, and I think it's because her daughter is trying to rebel against her mother, and she knows her mother doesn't like her own home traditions. And I read an article which kind of also is giving me some of these impressions as well. Her daughter kind of presumably like might miss home, and so her way of rebelling against her mother is to kind of. It's interesting because mostly you assume parents are the reactionary versus their progressive children, but here it's the progressive mother and a reactionary daughter who's trying to be more conservative with her traditions in the way to kind of form her own identity, which is a very kind of nice twist on the whole thing. And so her daughter is actually finding out comfort in home traditions, and including, it seems, wanting to like get married at 15, which is what her parents did. And so then that was a giant risk, because she might just accept the proposal of the gangster's son because he did it, and it's like, oh well, that kind of fits with what I want to do, and there's no one else around in my life, and she might just like seize it as a way to kind of do one to her mo. So yeah, you can shift Mum's position a bit more. And as another article, I think I can't remember who I read it from now, it's pointed out, this show is basically about the theme of sacrifice, and that's literally every single character arc is exploring that, and it's nice for seeing what sacrifices Mom Mothma is going to take. So yeah, that's my thoughts that I was able to kind of express at much more length now that I'm not like seconds away from pooping myself. So I'm going to end the stream there. I'm going to finish eating my food, which in the studio lights looks very unappetizing. And take my cats to the vet. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you at whatever I next talk about. Probably this next week, the finale, and then at some point I need to, before the end of December, claim on my free month of Paramount Plus and binge watch Strange New Worlds. So I might do like one long reaction to the whole series. I don't know, it depends how long the series is. I might have to do episode by episode, to be honest. Or I might just actually take it and enjoy myself, because I've kind of missed that boat. Anyway, bye.